Good morning on day 16, leaving Tok, Alaska, heading up through Fairbanks and ending up in the vicinity of Denali, and 2 days there. And we're riding tomorrow. Very smoky and cloudy and a bit cool out this morning. Probably bad air quality all the way through Fairbanks. Using the Necki again helped yesterday, and that's about it. Let's hit the road. About 15 minutes outside of Tok, the visibility became almost zero from the smoke. I turned on the high beam headlight and slowed down to well below the speed limit. I was happy to see the sign for the Black Veterans Memorial Bridge, another fitting tribute to the African American soldiers who helped construct the Alaska Highway. The Alaska Highway officially ends and the Richardson Highway begins in Delta Junction. After riding it from start to finish, I can say that it's still an adventure, especially on two wheels. As the sun tried to burn through the smoke, I was reminded of how big and unpredictable moose can be. An hour past Delta Junction, and I started to see signs about the Eielson Air Force Base Air Show happening today. Fortunately, most of the vehicles were approaching from the opposite direction to enter the gates. The line must have been at least a mile long. No sightings of you-know-who today. The smoke cleared up in Fairbanks and stayed clear as I headed generally south towards Denali National Park. The mountains soon came into view. The road to the lodge was steep, curved, and banked with lots of gravel and potholes. I let the speed get too low, the bike stalled, and my leg was too short to keep from falling over. The only real damage was a sheared-off clutch lever, like it's designed to do. Still usable, though. Not the way I wanted to end the day, but tomorrow is a planned down day in the park. I didn't feel like sitting on a tour bus all day, so I planned to go for a hike. It was a chilly start to the day as I set out on the Mount Healy Overlook Trail, advertised as strenuous. The hike lived up to its billing in some portions and offered great views of the area. I had to hustle down to make the shuttle bus for the first sled dog demonstration of the day. The dogs really seem to enjoy what they do and have happy and fulfilling lives. The staff is enthusiastic and engaged as well. After lunch, I walked down to the train station to await the arrival of the next passenger train. I think exploring Alaska by train would be pretty cool, and I'll look into it for my next trip. I looked around the visitor center and then headed back to the lodge in the early afternoon to plan for tomorrow's ride due to a last-minute route change. No riding today, so here's the map of the hike to the Mount Healy Overlook. Good morning on day 18. No video yesterday on day 17 because there was no riding. I figured there was no sense making a video standing in front of the bike because I wasn't going to use it. So taking the long way around to Valdez this morning, found out the Denali Highway is not paved and rough and probably not the way I want to make my way to Valdez. So adding about 110 miles or so with this route, but only turns out to be 46 minutes more because of the slow conditions on Denali Highway. So I hit the road here. If I can make it down this hill without wrecking, it will be a great start to the day. Let's give it a shot. After successfully navigating to the bottom of the hill, I turned south onto Parks Highway. I'd read about Igloo City, a failed hotel venture with a unique design from the 1970s near Cantwell, and I was happy to see it still standing. It was never completed, though a gas station did operate at one time on the site. And no, I didn't venture inside. I've seen that movie and know how it ends. Another 45 minutes of riding through some light rain, and I stopped by the Alaska Veterans Memorial. It's a very impressive tribute and includes several memorials for specific incidents during peacetime and war. I got on the Glen Highway near Palmer, and the scenery became really amazing. What a road, it just kept getting better and better. Just past Glen Allen, I turned south on the Richardson Highway. There were 3 separate extended work zones, each more treacherous than the previous one, which isn't fun towards the end of a long riding day. After the last work zone, I stopped for a quick look at the glacier, and then worked my way up, over, and down the Thompson Pass. It was incredibly windy and started to rain. The rain was with me into Valdez, but what a ride. Even with the work zones and challenging weather, I rank the Richardson Highway as one of the best I've ever ridden. Tomorrow, I get my Alaskan sea legs, so to speak. Good morning on day 19, I think. They all run together. Leaving Valdez, taking the ferry to Whittier, and that will be just about the whole day. Ferry terminal is just about 5 minutes away. It's early, about 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. check-in for the 7 a.m. ferry. About 8 hours to cover what doesn't seem like a long distance. Maybe it has something to do with currents, but I'll have some time to kill, hopefully a nap. See you then.
I made the quick ride to the ferry terminal, checked in, and saw 2 fellow adventure riders who were on standby and hoping to get on this ferry, which they did. Riding onto ferries is always a little tricky with the steel ramp and slippery surfaces. After a minor wobble negotiating some wood planks at the start of the ramp, I didn't have any issues getting on and parked. The ferry departed on time at 7 a.m., and the captain gave us the good news that we'd be skipping the scheduled stop at Tillack because no one needed to get off, or apparently on. With the direct route to Whittier, we'd arrive about 2 hours early, so I settled in and enjoyed the scenery, happy to let someone else do the driving for a while. Riding off the ferry can be as tricky as riding on for the same slippery reasons, but I didn't have any trouble, even though it was drizzling. Whittier is a strange little town with a population just over 200. It played a key role as a deep-water, year-round port during World War II, and is home to yet another Cold War relic. The Buckner Building was a city in a building designed to house approximately 1,000 U.S. Army soldiers. It was phased out of use in the 1960s and now sits abandoned and decaying. Today was an easy day leading into the unofficial end of this long riding adventure tomorrow. First, I'd have to get through an interesting tunnel though.
Good morning on day 20. Leaving the very small, very windy, very noisy town of Whittier, and going through the mega tunnel here shortly, heading down towards Seward. See what's down there. Short day, last day of adventuring, and then working my way back up to Anchorage, and that's going to be it for the day, and just focus on what I see along the way. Let's get to it.
There isn't much to do in Whittier, but cruise ships do pull into port for passengers to get on the Alaska Railroad to points north and south, and one did so overnight. The Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel is the only vehicular way into or out of Whittier that doesn't involve a ship or aircraft. At 2.5 miles, it's the longest combined rail and vehicle tunnel in North America. The U.S. military constructed the tunnel during World War II for trains to carry supplies and troops from the port. It's wet and slippery, and powerful ventilation fans add to the challenge. Keeping the bike between both rails did require concentration, but I emerged safely from the tunnel after about 10 minutes. At the end of the Portage Glacier Road, I turned left towards Seward. I didn't have much of a plan other than riding down there for the sake of seeing another part of Alaska. Heavy smoke from the wildfires was causing some disruptions on the western side of the peninsula, so I backtracked north with the detour for the Exit Glacier Nature Center in Kenai Fjords National Park. I made my way towards Anchorage along the Turnagain Arm and could see a thick blanket of smoke on the water. One final Cold War relic to visit was the Nike missile site Point, now a park next to the Anchorage International Airport. It was one of 3 in the greater Anchorage area and operated between 1959 to 1971. The 1964 earthquake almost caused a disaster with the nuclear and conventionally armed missiles, but the Army crews spent the next several days stabilizing the situation at great personal risk. The missile bunkers are still there and mostly repurposed, but the radar control site down the street has been completely razed to the foundation. After that walk through history, I rode to my hotel. The only thing left to do tomorrow was drop off the bike at the shipping company and squeeze in a museum visit before flying home. What more can I say about this amazing adventure across many miles and through lots of history? Well, it exceeded all my expectations in every department, and I met some interesting people from start to finish. A final salute to the African American heroes of World War II and the Civil Rights Movement. They continue to inspire future generations. Thanks for coming along for the ride. Let's do it again sometime. Soon.